Hello everybody, Des1253 here, back again with another video, and today we'll be talking about weapons in Battlefield 1, and why you should not underestimate certain weapon classes, such as the iron-sighted bolt-action sniper rifles. Okay, so first of all, why are we talking about weapons in Battlefield 1, as I haven't even covered much about the game at all yet, and I believe I only ever did like a support class overview back all the way in like 2018. So what's the point of me talking about this? Well, mainly with the fact that Battlefield 5 is now basically dead, and there's actually not enough for me to actually fully want to fucking cover the game, I decided, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna cover some Battlefield 1 today. Because one of the main issues I have with Battlefield 5 is terrible weapon balancing, and this game fixes that wholeheartedly, and I want to talk about why the weapon balancing is actually some of the best we've ever seen in a Battlefield game, and why all the weapons, in my opinion, have their own unique playstyle, their own reason to be used, and best of all, that all the weapons can be fun and usable by every single player. Okay guys, so I'm going to go over a brief history of weapons in the most recent Battlefield games. The closest game I'm going to be referencing is Battlefield 3, since this is the standard style for Battlefield guns and weapons was established. So yeah, let's get into it. So if you guys don't know, Battlefield 3 was released around the time Modern Warfare 3 was, so quite a few years ago. And weapons in Battlefield up to that point had been fairly wonky in terms of balancing, especially in between different games. Battlefield 3, I think, was the first time when they actually used a sort of more standardized system that we now have in most Battlefields, which is mostly a caliber-based damage model. Overall, there's not too much I can say other than the fact that it was simply just a groundwork for how stats would continue to work in Battlefield games like going forward. But on to the biggest one, which is Battlefield 4. Now, Battlefield 4 has two major balance things that make it that made it a lot, better and worse than other Battlefield games. So the main issue with Battlefield 4 in terms of its weapon balancing was the fact that certain weapon classes were not balanced against each other properly. A good example being submachine guns or PDWs were not very good at release, and in a result of that, they ended up having to actually nerf other primary weapons other classes of primary weapons in order to fix it, and they also had to literally change the caliber of another weapon in the class in order to make it viable after the update. If you guys don't know, it's the RPK. The main reason being the fact that they made the PDWs do extremely low damage, causing them to not compete, which then meant they lowered the the damage of assault rifles and LMGs to compensate and make the SMG seem a bit better. That's probably the biggest thing that was in Battlefield 4 that was, I think, about a balance design flaw. I thought what would have been a better idea is to simply just increase the damage of the PDWs, or make it to where their damage range is actually a little bit better, so that they can 5-shot a bit farther away, or maybe even 4-shot, but have it be extremely short range. But the biggest thing in terms of what I'm going to be talking about today, which is why iron sight sniper rifles are so good, is sniper rifles. So in Battlefield 3, sniper rifles had the ability to all one-shot within, I believe, 12 meters, depending on... There were a few exceptions, but most of them could one-shot within 12 meters, at least the good ones. And they were one-shot headshots at any range. In Battlefield 4, there was a bit different. Certain sniper rifles could one-shot kill in close range, but only like 2 or 3, and they were you either had to be point blank, or I think the longest range in the entire game was like 2 meters, something like that. Like, it's so bad. So getting one-shot body shots with sniper rifles was not something you could do very well, and because of that, sniper rifles tended to be a much more passive playstyle than even before, because now you can no longer be aggressive with a sniper rifle. You simply had to be you had to be too far back in order to be considered what was called an aggressive sniper by the I would guess the stereotype by Battlefield 3 standards. And this leads on to one of the biggest things that happened, which was generally only around 3 to 4 snipers in the game were used. These being the SRR-61, the M98B, the M40A5, and a weird one that I've seen that has actually popped up more often is the JNG-90, but I know why a lot of people use that weapon. But I won't go into it too much since it doesn't pertain to the conversation. But overall, most of these weapons had one of two things: very high bullet velocity or low drop. The only one that was different from both of these was the M40A5, and that was because the M40A5 had decent bullet drop, decent bullet velocity, but also had extremely fast fire rate for any of the other high damage bullet actions when it was at the time. And it actually had to be nerfed because its mag size of 10, or its mag capacity of 10, was unbalanced according to them. So it got reduced to 5. Either way. So what does this bring into Battlefield 1? Well, in Battlefield 4, either way, in Battlefield 4 we had an issue in which nobody could be aggressive with sniper rifles. But you also had the fact that with the new setting of World War I, they had to make it to where rifles were good. Now why is this? Well, because pretty much every fucking soldier in World War I was generally just carrying around their fucking bolt-action iron-sighted rifle, like you're seeing me use here. Only difference is the fact that they would generally one-shot kill to the chest. So how do you fix this? Well, simply put, let's make it to where they deal 100 damage. But here's the issue. How do we make it to where not only these weapons are balanced, so that high fire rate weapons do not just completely outcompete slow firing bolt actions when compared to the the long range weapons too? And what ranges do we make these weapons one shots at? And this is how you get the sweet spot system to come into place. Now, for all of you who haven't played Battlefield 1, the sweet spot system is a mechanic for bolt action sniper rifles, in which between certain distances in your damage drop-off, your weapon will actually proceed to deal more damage, up to 100 or 112 depending on the weapon. And at those distances, a body shot will one-shot kill. Now, the reason that makes this really good, and actually a great design choice, is not only does it make it to where you can, if you know what you're doing, you can make all sniper rifles work fairly well, but it also makes it to where it is less of an issue with balancing, because simply put, you can balance weapons based around their sweet spot range, making it to where their most easy to use time may be in a certain distance to protect against people just running around with the fastest firing bolt actions and doing it that way. Instead, there's actually a bit more decision making in terms of picking your weapons. So yeah, that's basically how the sweet spot system came to be. And up next, I will talk about the balance of the bolt action rifles within each other. And I will also talk about Battlefield 1 as a whole, and talk about how weapons generally are treated. So yeah, see you guys in a minute. Okay, so BF1 sniper rifles. I already told you about the sweet spot mechanic, now let's get into it. So, generally there are 2 to 3 sniper rifles in each sweet spot category. Generally these sweet spot categories are categorized to short or close-up sniper rifles, medium to long-range sniper rifles, and then extremely long-range sniper rifles. For the base game, the Lee Enfield is in the short-range category. Same thing with the, or I guess kind of the same thing with the Gewehr M95, but it technically doesn't have a sweet spot. It just has another mechanic to make it do well in close range. You have the medium range ones, which are the Russian 1895 and the what the hell is it called? The frickin' sorry guys, I'm having a brain shirt. I guess you'd say the Gewehr 98. And then in the base game you have one, well, I like to call super long range sniper, which is the M1903 Springfield. Simply put, every single weapon is more useful in those categories, but can be used in all categories if needed. Also, all of these weapons also have iron sight versions, though the Russian 1895 has a cool version of it, but either way, same thing with the Springfield. Either way, so let's continue. So, then you go into the DLC weapons. Generally, the DLC weapons fixed a lot of this by giving them a bit, giving a few more versatile styles of play and a few new sweet spot zones. There are two weapons in the game that share a unique sweet spot, which is called which I like to call the overall sweet spot. Now, what these weapons are, they're weapons that generally have very, very slow fire rates, are generally very, very slow traveling bullets, and have very large drop, but also have a massive sweet spot distance amount, so that they can kill with relative ease at generally most decent engagement ranges. But both of them also tend to be iron sighted as well when in use. These two weapons are the Viterli. I can't pronounce it. It's an Italian weapon. It's an Italian 4-round rifle, and the Martini Henry single round fucking cannon, as I like to call it. Both these weapons have insanely big sweet spots. I believe they start at like not even 75. It's like 50 meters or something like that, and they go all the way out to like 100. Like, it's an insane amount of distance, and they also are the only weapons in the game that can one-shot to the leg within their sweet spot range. But those two weapons are kind of outliers in the class, because the issue is that they are so slow and so cumbersome to use that they are actually very difficult in order to get kills with. Either way, though, to finish this whole discussion off of sniper rifles, every sniper rifle has a place in this game. And iron sight rifles, while people say that they are bad, they do have benefits and downsides, namely the fact that you no longer get scope glint while using them, but you lose the magnified scope for obvious reasons. I can say this as a benefit and a downside depending on the weapon. Although I actually tend to find it more of a benefit, because that means I have more time to line up my shots. Though new players, I would recommend staying away from these until you become a much better sniper. But once you have mastered the ability to aim with iron sight rifles, you can honestly pick off snipers with full power rifles in almost half the time that they can pick you off, and you'll also have the ability to fight in a bit more close range while not having your vision obscured through the scope. Okay guys, so I'm not going to make a title slide for the last one, for this last part, because I think it's kind of stupid. Plus it fits in the same category. I'm going to talk about the general weapon balance of Battlefield 1, and also a little update. Okay, so, Battlefield 1 weapons. Generally is a slower time to kill than, I would say, Battlefield 3, but faster than Battlefield 4. It's about in between. Namely because most of the LMGs and submachine guns kill very slowly outside of close range, but kill somewhat faster than in long range, or kill somewhat faster in short range compared to their other battlefield counterparts. Shotgun, sniper rifles, like I said, they're both one-shot kill weapons in their games, although different ways of doing it. So they're not really changing in terms of time to kill. The biggest changes in time to kill in the game are the semi-auto rifles and the LMG. So some LMGs have insanely high damage. Namely, there's, I believe, 2 or 3 of them. But they are also hampered by extremely high recoil and or slow fire rates. The rest of the weapons generally tend to fall within the category of 5 to 6 shot kills. Well, actually, no, more like 4 to 5 shot kills in close range. And generally, they drop off to being anywhere up to 7 shot kills. So even though they kill about the same at the same amount of shots as Battlefield 4, a lot of them tend to have faster fire rates than Battlefield 4 for some reason, aside from the 200 round weapons. So overall, the time to kill with LMGs is slower than Battlefield 4, but the way you use them is also slightly different, which allows them to be better in some ways. The biggest change, though, out of all of them is semi-auto rifles. So, namely, semi-auto rifles are the fastest killing weapons in the game if you know what you're doing. Simply put, 2-shot headshot, 3-shot body shot in close range. Outside of that, it takes... Most of them are 4-shot kills at most, some of them 5. But all of them are extremely easy to use because they're semi-auto nature. And 2 of them in the game, one of them a DLC, one of them a base gun. The DLC one's better, by the way. Are full auto. And even though they sacrifice damage at range for it, being 5 or 6 shot kills respectively, they are some of the fastest killing full auto weapons in the game and can actually outcompete most SMGs. So yeah, that's all I got for weapons in Battlefield 1. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, but I don't know. Either way, I might be making more videos soon enough. Hopefully I do. If you guys want to see anything special, just let me know. And I'll be seeing you guys all later.